Hello, and welcome to the Theater Queens podcast. I'm Rikki.
I'm Ellie.
And I'm Elissa. This podcast, we're going to do a quick dive into the latest theater news, and then we're going to do a deep dive into our latest theater obsessions, and then an even deeper dive into the twisted psyche that is our minds.
True.
Love it.
And to start with the latest news, Rikki, do you want to take it away?
Okay, well, and not so recent news.
Recent enough.
Broadway is still shut down, so right now, nothing is on, but
Oof.
everyone is doing, like, a lot of things are being announced now, because things are coming. Company is coming. They didn't announce when. All the articles are saying Company finally announced they're coming to Broadway, but then we actually click the link. It's like coming soon.
Coming when?
Soon can be 3 years from now.
Great. I want to buy tickets. Let me know when. In the Heights moved their date up. Originally, they were supposed to premiere June 18th, but now they push it up to June 11th. So we get to see In the Heights a week earlier. I'm so excited for that show.
My sister is waiting with bated breath.
I've watched all of the trailers at least 100 times each.
I have watched them all once.
Oh my god, I love that show so much, and I'm so excited for the movie to come out. What else? Oh, it was also just do you guys know what day it was yesterday?
It was Sunday.
It was the birthday of both Stephen Sondheim and Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Wait, they have the same birthday?
Same birthday. It's a very special day. Am I gonna plan my future children to be born on that day? Of course I will. And what else? And a bunch of West End places.
They're moving faster. Here's the thing, is that they're a little bit more ready than
A little
we are.
bit, yeah.
But they're not quite. I think they've gotten to the point America got to, which is we don't care about anything.
So everyone will die, but West End will be open.
Exactly.
So the shows that have announced, and this is just like, I'm sure there's more than this, but Hairspray 6, Anything Goes with Megan Mullally is coming. Hamlet with Ian McKellen. Pretty Woman is coming back. Lion King is coming back.
Of course, Lion King is coming back.
I mean, on Broadway, everyone's saying the first ones that are going to come back are going to be Wicked, Phantom, Lion King.
Tourist trap.
So who is coming with me to England to see Hamlet with Ian McKellen? Because
Who's coming with me to Japan to go see Waitress in Japanese?
that
is what I want to see.
I am.
Oh, the Prom is going to be in Japan. Do you want to see Prom in Japanese? I would love to.
Not really.
No.
The funniest part about it the first time was the dialogue, and if it's going to be in Japanese and I don't understand it, what's the point?
Exactly.
Oh my god. But like, I saw the clips from Waitress, and when he sees me in Japanese, it's just so adorable and so quirky and kooky, and I love it.
I feel like, yeah, because it's in a different language.
But it's like watching an anime, but Broadway.
But Broadway and not with subtitles?
Not with subtitles. But that's the thing, because I feel like I'm just so familiar with Waitress already that,
Right.
yeah, like, I feel like if I had never seen Waitress before, never heard the music, and going into it, like, seeing it in Japanese, it'd be a very different experience. But I mean, also, like, when you go see an opera, like, if you don't speak Italian, you still could feel the story.
For the listeners out there, a little bit backstory on us. Rikki is part of the Broadway community.
At least I pretend like I am.
She at least pretends like she is.
I play one on TV.
She's hosted some panels at BroadwayCon, so I mean,
I have hosted a solid 2 BroadwayCon panels. I have worked at Parsons Mirrors, which is a Broadway costume shop, working on costumes for Hamilton, Lion King, a little bit on Frozen. And I work as an extra in lots of TV and movies.
I personally am just a Broadway enthusiast.
as am I.
My whole family is. I got in very young, going to Kids Not on Broadway until I wasn't allowed to.
So you're too old.
Until I was too old, and then I started taking my siblings, so it's great. I did study media studies, so I know how to analyze things to the point where they're no longer fun.
And I'll also throw it in that I have a theater degree too.
I will pepper in the fact that I am an expert.
I mean, more than anything, I'm a Broadway fanatic, but if y'all want to call me a professional, you're more than welcome to.
Whatchamacallit. And I am also just a Broadway enthusiast with a media degree.
The media degree is more of a, hey, look, I studied media.
And I have a theater degree, which is like, hey, look, I'm poor.
Exactly.
Okay, so shall we get into our deep dive?
Should we just get on into it? Yeah.
Let's get into our deep dive. This week's deep dive, we are going to be talking about the amazing musical Jagged Little Pill. Again, Broadway's not currently on, but there may or may not be some secret or not so secret bootlegs out there.
Slime tutorials.
Slime tutorial.
Excuse me.
Sorry, there's many a Jagged Little Pill slime tutorials.
Let's just go over the plot a little bit. Jagged Little Pill is a musical based on the work of Alanis Morissette, more specifically her album, Jagged Little Pill.
I'm going to be real honest with you guys. I've never listened to Jagged Little Pill before this.
You whore.
I knew like 3 of them.
I have cried over so many ex-boyfriends to that album.
I have not. I knew going into it 2 of the songs.
I knew most of those songs going into the show.
I knew Ironic.
Don't you think?
Everyone knows Ironic.
I knew You Ought to Know.
I've scrolled to that at a karaoke bar.
I know the song Hands in My Pockets, but I did not realize it was Alanis Morissette.
Oh, I love that
No,
song
I knew
so
those
much.
3 and nothing else.
What about like Head Over Feet?
Nope.
I didn't know Head Over Feet. You know what I did know? Was Uninvited. I knew Uninvited.
Oh my god, we'll get into it when we talk about it. But ooh, that song.
So let's just go over the plot a little bit.
Okay, we should also probably clarify that there are going to be spoilers. So if you're listening and you have not seen the show,
Much spoiler. Very much spoiler.
all the spoilers.
Also, there is probably a trigger warning on that.
Yes, absolutely. There is a trigger warning. This show does discuss issues of sexual assault, which is obviously a very sensitive topic. So definitely trigger warning.
So we are following the story of Mary Jane because everyone needs to know from the top that she's a drug addict. She is a suburban mom who seems to have the perfect life. She goes to Spin Cycle. She has a powerful husband and 2 lovely kids, one of whom just got into Harvard, and the other of whom is a budding radicalist. So,
Yeah.
but as we take a look, we see almost immediately her dream life isn't as perfect as it seems. Her son is depressed, which they never talk about, which is terrifyingly sad.
Yeah,
Her husband is never home anymore and is
because he just got promoted.
You did just...
and she is addicted to pain pills.
Yeah.
So
What is a story? What is a woman to do?
what is a woman to do? Well, nothing for a solid part of the first act.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of just pretending everything's fine, going along with her addiction. And meanwhile, her daughter meets a boy and is slowly falling in love with someone who is not her girlfriend. Her son is depressed and wants to try to go to parties because that's going to fix things.
Well, I don't think it's because he wants to fix things. I think it's finally that he got into Harvard. He has that, and now he has like a moment to kind of like breathe and relax.
He can break for a sec.
So now that he has that opportunity, he wants to go, he wants to party and have some time to just
True.
chill.
And her husband has all the makings of a cheating storyline.
He does not cheat.
He does not. He's
He's not a cheater. He loves
does
her
not.
so much.
He loves her so much, but like, listen, here's the thing is that when we first started watching the show, we were looking at all the tropes, right? And you have the overachiever son who probably doesn't actually want to go to Harvard.
Yeah.
The adopted rebellious younger daughter rebelling against her perfect life. She is bi. There is obvious mother-daughter tension. You can assume immediately that might be the center of the show. You have the overworked husband. Kind of assume that because he's overworked, he's going to end up cheating on her. Speaking of MJ, we have an intensely image-conscious mother who is addicted to pain meds and will have to probably pick up the pieces of her life in Act 2 after everything falls apart. We kind of assumed that Nick was going to be the one who either rebels, kind of wants to go to art school instead, or is so depressed that he has a suicide attempt. That did not happen. We kind of assumed that the mother-daughter tension was going to be one of the central themes of the show, especially after they had that massive song together.
That was very interesting that they decided the main story that we get is between her and her husband. Like, I kind of loved that.
It's fantastic. It's set up poorly. And we kind of were immediately like looking at, okay, are we going to play it straight? Are we going to subvert it somehow? Here's the problem in story development and plot development, which is that they fall into the trap that most things end up falling into, which is you want to subvert something so you don't set it up properly.
Set up to awful payoff. Great.
So if they had followed through with the tropes, I'm not going to say that would have been good.
I know. There were a lot of tropes and it
Yeah, there's a lot of tropes.
But when in Act 2, all of a sudden the show was so strongly about her and her husband, and you
Mhm.
don't see all of that.
Mm.
In the beginning of the first act, what you see mostly is the mother-daughter tension.
Right.
You see the hints of Nick being depressed. You see some of the tension,
Mhm.
but it's not focused on nearly enough for them to then in act 2 make it the central focus of her storyline. That part in particular, not set up very well. The other writing error that we get into is Phoenix, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get
We'll
into
get
it.
into Phoenix.
Okay. So we touched on the A story and the A plot and the B plot. Could we get to the C plot that should have been the A plot, please?
Can we? Let's talk about it.
So the C plot, there's a girl in Nick's age named Bella Fox who goes to a party and gets raped. The C plot is mostly about Frankie trying to stand by her, help her and support her, and also finding out that her brother was unwittingly witness to it and trying to get him to help her case by coming clean about what happened that night. That is the C plot. Sexual assault is the C plot and used as set dressing for, spoiler alert, Mary Jane remembering her own sexual assaults and with it.
I mean, I like how they kind of connected the two characters, but it very much felt like an afterthought.
Oh, it absolutely felt like an afterthought.
The poetry of it, the parallels, it was excellently done.
Yeah.
But the way that they showed it beautifully. They did not set it up properly. They used Bella's sexual assault is going to be one of the most traumatic events in her life. Hopefully the most traumatic event in her life. It is something formative and incredibly harmful, and it's window dressing.
Yeah, I feel that.
It's used as a method to help Mary Jane come to terms with everything, as opposed to, this is how we see that they kind of picked a central character. They picked Mary Jane, and she's going to be our leader, and even though she does not get the most stage time, I think that actually might be Frankie.
Yeah, Frankie does have a lot.
Everything always comes back to Mary Jane, to the point where the other storylines kind of don't matter. They only matter in how they affect Mary Jane. The only exception to that is Frankie's storyline.
Right.
Primarily Frankie's storyline with Joe, which deserves its own special mention because Lauren Patton.
Joe is so good.
Oh my god.
Lauren Patton was amazing.
So good. So great. Love her.
There is no one in that show who does better. and that show has some standout acting.
Yeah, it really does.
There are a couple of things that I want to talk about if we're talking about Joe currently.
Yeah.
Talk about Joe.
So the two main things that I want to talk about is obviously Lauren Patton's version versus
Ezra's.
That's one thing that we will get to in a second.
That's a whole conversation.
The second thing I want to talk about, just very quickly, is why in musicals do they give the show-stopping number to the jilted best friend? Like, I don't get it. It's happened in several musicals.
Yeah,
so
I'm like to give like Michael in the bathroom.
Michael in the bathroom. What's it called? From the Mean Girls.
Yeah.
What's her face's?
Oh yeah, I'd rather be me.
I'd rather be me. Like the show-stopping numbers are given to the best friend who just got
best friend
like
or ex-lover.
hurt.
Yeah.
I love it so much, but it's just an observation that I had to.
As opposed to like in Rent, where like what you own is
Exactly.
Mark and Roger, where like they're the main.
In more modern, what's it called? It's given to the comic relief or the
quirky
best
friend.
friend or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Usually the same. So that third, if we're talking about that, what's it called? Phoenix. I'm a sucker for dumbasses.
Yeah.
He's so pure.
And that is all he is.
Yeah.
He's so pure.
He's so pure and dumb, and I love him. But Lauren versus Ezra.
Oh, girl.
Rikki, what are your thoughts?
Okay. Well, they're very different performances.
Absolutely.
I think vocally, Lauren's a little stronger, but I think Ezra, the way they give that performance, first of all, like kudos for like a non-binary actor being able to work in a Broadway musical. Like,
yes, absolutely.
oh my God, amazingness. But their performance has so much emotion that you guys.
Okay.
Oh, I feel the shade from both of those looks.
So I disagree, and I believe Elissa agrees with me.
Really?
That
I felt so much emotion from them.
okay. So let me tell you first what I did, because my brain is weird. So first of all, the day of when I have to talk about something, I dive into it and look up as much about it as possible. And I also just like compare things overall. And what I noticed, I watched the original with Lauren Patton, and then I watched the specific scenes with Ezra. And when you're watching Lauren Patton, you watch Joe from this, happy-go-lucky, hands in my pocket kind of girl, and you watch slowly throughout her life kind of not doing so hot. You can watch in every scene, as soon as she is on stage, you can see the weight of everything that is going on in her life on her face.
The amount of repressed rage, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You see it on her face, and
it keeps building and building and building and building. And then you ought to know is her at the breaking point.
Yeah.
There is no actual choreography of that song.
Yeah.
It is all blocking, because in real life, she would be saying the exact same things, just saying them instead of singing them.
Yeah.
It is her explosion of feelings and emotions that I think is incredibly done. And when she's like staring at her own hands, trying, like, looking like she's tearing at herself, it feels like she doesn't want to be her at that moment, because like her life is so shitty at them. You can feel the passion and emotion. With Ezra, fantastic performer. They're great. I didn't feel like they carried the weight of the show.
Okay, I see that.
There was very little behind the eyes.
Oh.
I felt like every scene they came on, they put on a frustrated face.
One of the things that I look for a lot, and one of the things that I tend to notice, was after you're done with a sentence, what are you doing?
Yes, the act of listening.
There was very little carryover from the beginning of the performance.
And with Lauren Patton, every single second, you could see it simmering.
That she's on.
She was on. She knew exactly what was going on, and she knew how to bring it out.
Yeah.
With Ezra, I'm not taking anything away from.
So basically, like, what you're saying is that, like, they had like a Broadway worthy performance. They were able to get cast in a Broadway show, but it wasn't your favorite.
But there's a reason they were the understudy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did enjoy Lauren's better.
Lauren, first of all, just sounds like Alanis Morissette.
Lauren's voice. Can we talk about Lauren's voice and how phenomenal?
The example that I gave about the watching the rage in Lauren Patton versus Ezra is her walking in on Phoenix and Frankie fucking.
Putting it lightly, I see.
I'm putting it all out there. Spoiler alert. The scene afterwards where it's mostly Joe telling Frankie's parents about Phoenix.
Yeah.
With Ezra, you can see that it starts out as just like, oh yeah, by the way, and then it starts like getting like infuriating for them.
Okay.
With Lauren, you see the rage that she has built throughout this entire thing. It comes out a little bit as she continues to say things because she can't stop herself, because it's gotten to that point.
When she says, "Don't call me Joanne, I'm not a fucking fabric store."
Oh my god.
Greatest. Okay, so I figured out why the show was as quippy as it was.
Why was it as quippy as it was, Ellie?
In my dive today, I found out that a writer of the book for Jagged Little Pill is Diablo Cody.
Who did Juno? That's fun.
Juno and other things.
Amongst many other things, but...
And Diablo Cody understands how to do...
angsty teens.
Funny teens.
Angsty teens and like dumb one-off quips. And that's why lines like legally bland.
Yeah.
Legally bland.
And the entire teacher.
Oh my god, she's such a mood. But the second that teacher walked in, I felt it in my bones.
Okay, cool. The music and the song.
Okay, first of all, like, shout out to Tom Kitt, who he did orchestrations on a bunch of different like jukebox shows. Like, I love his orchestration that he did for American Idiot. I believe he also did SpongeBob.
SpongeBob's not a jukebox.
It's a half jukebox. Me and my little brother discussed this. It is technically part jukebox because some of those songs are like actual songs from the artist and they just put it into the music.
That's it, again, different topic.
SpongeBob is another day.
I love how amazing Tom Kitt is at taking rock songs that everyone knows and totally reworking them for a theater setting.
Excellently done.
Oh my god, so wonderful. I love it.
I have to say, when it comes to music, the only other jukebox musical I can think of that comes close to being as good as this one was, and Jagged Little Pill was not perfect. I had a lot of issues with it. But jukebox musicals in general tend to have a pattern and a tendency to not be as well done mainly because you run into problems when you're trying to create a story out of music that's already been set. It's the problem that Mamma Mia runs into. And listen, I love Mamma Mia to death.
I don't.
I know you don't.
I'm so shady.
Mamma Mia is one of those things that you can't analyze because the second you do, it'll ruin what is honestly just pure joy.
I'm going to disagree with you because that being said, you have the opinion of most theater reviewers that jukebox musicals are basically taking musicals and forcing a story into these songs that have nothing to do with anything.
It's so stupid, but that's what makes it great.
But I'm going to disagree with you.
It happens. I'm not saying it's always. Jagged Little Pill did it well because the songs fit together.
Yeah.
The only other musical that I saw, the jukebox musical that I've experienced that I think does it nearly as well is American Idiot. But it's a rock opera. It has that storyline.
So with things like American Idiot, which I remember when that came out and I was watching interviews with Billy Joe Armstrong, my love, but he was saying, and I'm sure Alanis Morissette was the same way when she wrote Jagged Little Pill, when you're putting out an album, you kind of in your mind do have a story that strings them together. Or like a connection for them all.
It happens a lot more recently. You get concept albums. So when it comes to Jagged Little Pill and when it comes to American Idiot, they are very much concept albums. That's what they were intended to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so many critics hated American Idiot. I don't remember how long the run was for American Idiot, but so many people hated American Idiot.
Listen, I saw it. I was too young to see it.
Oh my God, I was too young to see it too. They were shooting up heroin and having lots of sexual stuff on stage.
I must have been 12 or 13 when it came out.
It came out 2010.
And 2010. Oh, so I was 13. And let me tell you, my mother took me and my siblings to go see it. And I'm the oldest. My little 8-year-old brother was sitting there watching it. Like, he's entirely puzzled expression on his face.
Can I say, I went to see Rock of Ages with my mom, and we got like second row seats in the orchestra. And we're just, I forget how old I was at the time, but we're just like staring up at strippers. And my mom's like, I'm so glad I didn't bring your brother here. Like, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I was like singing Internet is for Porn. And that was like, what, 2003? How old was I? I was a child.
Wait, on the point of jukebox musicals, I thoroughly enjoyed Head Over Heels.
I love that show so much. That show died too soon.
And it's a jukebox musical. I don't think that was the concept they had in mind.
Okay, that was also very much like, they made up a show and they were like, we're just going to squeeze these songs to fit. It was a good, fun show.
The story was great.
Is that going to be like a legendary best musical of all time?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not, but I fucking loved it.
Enjoyable as hell.
Okay, back to Jagged Little Pill.
Right, so back to Jagged Little Pill.
Back to our deep dive.
Jagged Little Pill. Let's take a second to talk because we've talked about music, we've talked about Joe, we've talked about the main storyline. Let's talk about Phoenix, which is, while a breath of fresh air as a character and lovely and amazing, not the best written.
He was so underwritten that he's technically an ensemble member. So he's not nominated for anything because he's ensemble.
Even though he has like 2 songs that he's like a lead person in the song.
Here's the thing is that if you look at his storyline from start to finish, he doesn't have his own...
There was no character progression.
When we say that he didn't do anything, he fell in love with a girl, he started liking a girl a lot, had sex with her, found out that she was dating another woman, and went, oh, let me bounce.
And that's it.
And now they're friends and nothing changed.
Yeah.
And we get hints at his storyline and his troubles at home, and they don't do anything with it. He is the ultimate example of a manic pixie dream guy.
Shit,
yeah.
I like manic pixie dream guys.
And then he kind of comes in and comes out. He's plot. He's not a character, he's a plot line.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, another one of the major failings of the show. You should not name characters who then you can't.
It was so
we just talk about the after sex scene for a second.
That was just so entertaining.
Some of the greatest, dumbest things from Phoenix.
He doesn't realize what happened yet.
So, again, I watched Ezra's version. There's a closer up on Phoenix's face, and it's Phoenix trying to get Frankie into the conversation.
Because he doesn't know. He just knows that there's this pretty girl in his class. And like he really likes her.
Well, here's the thing: is that he doesn't think anything is wrong. He doesn't know that they're
and that's why he does what he does. It doesn't in the Lauren version. It is not close enough to see what he's doing. So all of the sudden, he's like, "Oh yeah, we dissected. Yeah, there were 5 hearts, and they were all still beating." To Frankie, as though nothing was wrong in the world. And I'm just like, you lovable idiot.
Yeah.
That line of just like not realizing the tension in the room. In at least Lauren's version, it's so And then the next scene, which is the sad scene where she's yelling at her parents. The very beginning where the very beginning of the scene where it's like, you had a guy in here, whatever, and then he's like, he's right there, and we see Phoenix in like just underwear walking through the front audience. They're just like following him. It's so good.
The staging is very well done.
So good.
But also very poorly done. Can we talk for a second about the blocking?
I love how you're like, it's so well done, but so poorly done.
No, I want to talk specifically about the blocking at the end of Act 1 and the beginning of Act 2.
Yeah, no, the blocking is...
Yeah.
When we see everyone on stage together and things are not evenly spaced at all. What's most interesting, this is also another reason why Frankie and her mother storyline not being explored that much in Act 2 really bugs me, is because at the end of Act 1, we see everyone has like their own spot on the stage. They're split very evenly into 3. There's Steve all the way on one side, Mary Jane in the middle, and Nick all the way on the other side. But Frankie's in the middle next to her mother looking at her. And when Frankie is the only other character who has such a major central storyline, the fact that she doesn't get her own spotlight is a very weird choice.
Yeah.
And you see that consistently. Frankie tends to be sharing stage with someone else. And they could have just split it up a little bit more evenly into 4. It might have been partially my vantage point, but it can't entirely be my vantage point. There was that scene with Frankie next to Mary Jane was not my vantage point. That was intentional.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering why they set it up as Frankie and Mary Jane together, their storylines intertwined, when in reality, Frankie's frustration is stemming from her mother, and the beginnings of her inner turmoil come from the way she was raised, and we know that. But her major storyline, it surrounds her relationship with Bella. It surrounds her relationship with Joe. And so when we're going so far into her relationship with her mother in Act 1, only for the entire thing to be dropped, we don't get proper closure on her storyline.
Yeah.
She has a whole scene where she's yelling at her parents, you do not understand what it is like to be Black in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And they never resolve that. That's why I always hated that thing where someone runs away or does something drastic and then someone else does something even more drastic.
Just to kind of take away their thunder.
And they come running back like, oh, it's my fault. And they kind of completely forget every reason why they were upset. Frankie's never going to forget it. Frankie's not going to all of a sudden one day in 3 hours because her mother tried to commit suicide. She's not all of a sudden going to wake up and be like, oh, all of my issues with being Black in this neighborhood are gone. And the only closure we get from that is Frankie and her mother in the last scene, her mother telling her, we just wanted you to feel normal. And Frankie kind of just forgiving her. And it's like, no. They don't know what it's like, and they're never addressing it. And her mother tries so very hard. I'm not taking things away from Mary Jane, although I should be taking things away from Mary Jane, because let's be honest here, I did not like her as a character.
Yeah. I mean, I like this thing. I don't know, is she supposed to be a likable character or more of like an anti-hero?
Oh, she's very much an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Ellie, you said that they're the antagonists in the story, and by definition, they're not. They're the protagonists. Frankie and Mary Jane have to be the protagonists because the story centers around them.
They are the villain.
They are the villain in the story. They're the ones who destroy everything. It's not even anti-heroism at this point, because anti-heroism implies that they are still heroic characters. And despite Frankie trying very, very hard to be a good person, she ends up screwing up where it matters the most, which is interpersonal relationship. And despite Mary Jane's not even trying. All she is trying to do is, like, she's not even trying to be a good person. She's trying to be a good mother.
Or not, she's trying to look like she's being a good mother.
Right.
Oh, yeah. No, I was absolutely...
Yeah.
Not even that. She's trying to look like the other mother. Like, that was the whole thing at the beginning in the Starbucks, was that all of the mothers in this town are exactly the fucking same.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, she is trying so hard to hold on to that similarity, and that's why at the end when she sends the last letter where it is calling everyone on their bullshit, it's so needed in that moment.
So the point of that being that she's not a heroic character. It's not that she does bad things in heroic ways or that she does good things in bad ways.
Yeah.
She's not a hero. That's the main point of this, is that there's no, even though there's a protagonist, first of all, the only antagonist is themselves. The only ones who are kind of opposing their own forces are themselves. There are no heroes, there are no villains.
Well, wait, I don't think that was with all the characters, that it's just them getting in their own way.
Not all of them.
With Mary J, MJ, whatever. With her, like, okay, she has an opiate addiction, but that isn't necessarily like, oh, well, she could just stop. No, she
goes to rehab.
Yeah, so she went to rehab and that helped. But still, it's like a lifelong, that's like a whole, like...
She goes to rehab, she goes to therapy, and they say flat out at the end, nothing's fixed, but we're trying. Which is what frustrates me so much about Frankie's storyline and ending the way it does.
Let's get to this. Steve is the greatest person in the entire show.
He better get a fucking Tony Award.
Is the MVP.
His performance was so excellent. I felt every word that you just could see how much he cared for her and how much he just wanted to work. And
he was hilarious when he needed to be. He was serious when he needed to be.
So he gave such a stellar performance. But What's the Matter, Mary Jane was Chef's Kick's beautiful performance.
The only reason that man should not win the Tony is if Derek Leno wins it, because you can see all the tiny little choices that he makes as Nick.
He also was very good.
He was good, but I think Sean was better.
No, I hope Sean wins it.
Which is why it's such a shame that we don't actually get into Nick's depression, because it is hinted at so much, but he acts it so well.
I'm also going to add another point. I mean, if they really wanted to, they could get into all these different storylines, but like, how long can this musical be?
Fair, but they could have spent a lot less time on Frankie.
It's
okay,
true.
That being said, as much as we're like shitting on Frankie, like she did a great job too.
I love it. She did phenomenal.
So great. Also, like, fun fact, she's LaShawn's daughter. Do y'all know that?
I know.
I love like generational Broadway people, just making more Broadway people.
Bella Fox's act.
Catherine Gallagher.
Catherine Gallagher.
It's the daughter of Peter Gallagher.
Oh yeah, she's Peter Gallagher's daughter.
I found that out today.
I loved her in Spring Awakening. She did such a
It's so good.
after like the rape happens and Frankie comes to her and she's sitting on the couch.
And she's telling the story.
Oh my god. First of all, like putting an actor through having to be that character.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know who I want to win the Tony more. I don't know if I want it to be Lauren Patton or Catherine Gallagher, because both.
It's probably gonna go to Lauren Patton.
I'm not upset about it.
I'm not upset about it.
Because Lauren Patton is
Knowing how the Tonys usually go, it's probably gonna go to Lauren Patton.
phenomenal.
But Catherine Gallagher deserves it as well.
It's fantastic.
Okay, I want to really quickly just go through the list of thoughts. I know I'm going to go through the ones that we didn't touch on that I just want to mention. First of all, the diversity within the ensemble.
Yes.
The fact that there was a member of the ensemble who was actively dancing just as much as everyone else, who was visibly overweight.
Snaps.
It is so important. So important. I'm obsessed with her. So within size and also within race.
Yeah.
It was very ethnically diverse, and that was also very important.
Because if you see shows like Chicago, it's a very dance heavy, very particular dance. You look at those, they're all skinny white bitches.
We can see that Frankie is gay because in the first scene where she's meant to be sitting, not the first scene, the family breakfast, she can't sit on a chair properly. And
oh yeah. So you can instantly tell she's a bisexual.
I know that was probably done on purpose so that she could then jump up and do the whole dance number, but also that's how we know she's gay.
The meme of it all.
The dancing, the choreography was done very, very well.
For this show, she had a very particular style for the movements of everyone, that it wasn't just like, I know, it was very modern.
Yes, it was excellent.
Yeah.
I want to mention Keep On Smiling, because the choreography in that, the backwards move, backwards jump rope, everything, it was done incredibly well. Although she sounds really weird and the song in and of itself is boring, the staging is done excellently, the choreography is excellent, and the mirrors at the end when she's staring at herself in the mirror, very, very powerful moment.
It's foreshadowing not recognizing herself in Act 2.
I want to call out also for a minute Predator.
Yeah.
As one of the most, Predator and Uninvited are probably two of the most beautiful, powerful.
Yeah.
You ought to know is a showstopper, right?
Yes.
But Predator and Uninvited are, holy cow. The amount of power, first of all, in the choreography.
Yes, very much so. Again, the certain style of the choreography is so specific and is so, like, it does the job of what choreography is supposed to do. It helps tell the story perfectly. Like, you can feel
it works very, very, very well.
It helps further the plot and it helps the audience understand what is going on such a deeper level.
I have to say, like, the entire time, by the way, I'm watching this, I don't care for MJ. I don't care for her. I said it already. That number made me want to.
Yeah.
But as it stands in the show, the fact that they got people that looked so similar, like the character, it's done very well.
Showing the parallel between Mary Jane and Bella Fox through that one dancer.
Heather Lang, I think is her name. I looked up all of the ensemble's names. Like I said, I go into a weird amount of detail. I think her name was Heather Lang.
It was done incredibly.
And I think that's about all the time we have for this week. When Broadway comes back, you can catch Jagged Little Pill at the Broadhurst Theater. And again, please go buy tickets. It's such a wonderful show, and we absolutely loved it. And thank you so much for listening. This has been the Theater Queens Podcast. You could follow us on Spotify, SoundCloud, Instagram, and YouTube at Theater Queens Podcast and Theater_Queens on Twitter.